We begin tonight with a tragic development in the state's COVID crisis. A fifth person has died from the Delta strain. She's the mother of two removalists who are accused of travelling through country New South Wales while infectious. Let's go live to Cayman Gock, who's near the family home at Green Valley in southwestern Sydney. Cayman, this is a very sad development.
Jeremy, it's terrible to see more people lose their lives from this virus. And late today, health officials confirmed that a woman in her 50s died in a suburban home here on this street. Now, people are allowed to choose to try and recover from their home or a hospital, but her death meant that police cordoned off this road and this street was swarming with health officials wearing protective gear. But perhaps what is even more saddening is that her sons and her other relatives were forced to wait outside in their cars. Isolated in their cars, waiting for permission to move, two brothers sit outside the Green Valley house. Surrounded by police, they waited outside the home where their mother passed away. Officials confirmed the grim news late this afternoon. The woman in her 50s died after contracting COVID-19. Her two sons and their colleague were charged for breaching a health order for driving to the Central West in their line of work as removalists. That's despite receiving a call from health officials to return mid-trip after one tested positive.
Once you get a phone call from health telling you that you have tested positive to the virus, you have to return immediately to your place of residence and quarantine. They failed to do that.
Police say the trio understood the orders to return but continued to complete the delivery.
My understanding is that they can speak some English, but they did understand the seriousness of the positive test. That's something that obviously will be before the court and will be thrashed out in the legal argument.
5 people have died from COVID in Sydney in the last 10 days. Authorities fear the spread in the southwestern suburbs has been so fast that it's proving hard for contact tracers to beat. The list of regional exposure sites around towns like Molong and Orange have residents in the Central West on high alert. And those who visited sites in nearby Bathurst and Blaney are getting tested too. A separate truck driver recently tested positive.
Never expected to see anything like this in my lifetime. No.
A lot of people out here aren't vaccinated. I'm not vaccinated yet, but I'm very keen to get vaccinated.
Health authorities are waiting with bated breath to see if any spread occurred in these towns hundreds of kilometres from the city. Cayman Gock, ABC News.
Thousands of construction workers have put down their tools and work sites have gone quiet. The bruising ban on construction in Sydney has kicked in. The state has recorded 98 new cases. 20 of them were in the community for their full infectious period. There were another 17 for part of the time. The Premier is defending her call to send construction workers home, saying it's the only way to quash the outbreak. Here's state political reporter Ashley Raper.
The shock of a sudden shutdown is starting to be felt across the state's construction sector.
Certainly a downturn, mate. Down 100% at the moment. No income coming in at all, and trucks to pay and machines to pay.
For the first time this pandemic and for the first time in his career, Adam Smith is being forced to stop work for 2 weeks.
If it goes on beyond 2 weeks, I'll be in big trouble.
There is government assistance available for the industry's 250,000 workers.
It's better than nothing. However, what the ramifications of it is of what has happened is far greater than any grant.
Construction sites were ordered to close as part of the government's harsher lockdown to stop the spread of the virus. There are 98 new cases, 61 are linked. 67 cases are from southwestern Sydney. 20 people were in the community while infectious, and a further 17 were out for part of their infectious period.
We've stabilised the virus, but if we want to get out of this thing and have a normal life, we need to quash it, and that's why those extra measures were put in place.
The state's Chief Health Officer has clarified her role in the tightening of those measures. Dr Kerry Chan says her team only offers advice on the overall objectives.
Our objectives of decreasing workplace attendances, decreasing the opportunity for interactions is what we need to achieve. The matter for how that is done is really a matter for broader government.
When we've taken that advice, as you would expect, the government makes the decision.
The Premier has repeatedly claimed all decisions are based on health advice. But Dr Kerry Chant effectively came out today and said it's not her call to shut down whole industries like construction. That's up to the government. It lifts the lid slightly on the decision-making processes and puts a greater burden on the Premier to explain her rulings.
Well, what's important for us is to respond to the critical health advice we received.
And the Premier has reiterated that this is a critical time in the lockdown. Ashley Raper, ABC News, Sydney.
People in the 3 local government areas under the strictest lockdown rules are coming to terms with what life will look like for the next 2 weeks. On the weekend, the changing advice on who could and couldn't go to work wreaked havoc on the plans of some small business owners.
Usually the atmosphere at the Angry Gnome Cafe is far from what its name suggests. But now owners Cameron and Christina are feeling far more in tune with their mascot.
We scrambled and we panicked. We got straight here. We threw away most of our stock. We lost a lot of money.
Because they live in Canterbury Bankstown, they were led to believe they wouldn't be able to go to work at their Rockdale coffee shop. But the expanded list of authorised work revealed after midnight came too late.
I woke him up and I probably was the angriest I've ever been, to be honest.
Yeah,
I was furious. They're playing with people's lives.
They've been left in limbo, wondering when they should reopen. Next door, Mohammed Mubayed's barbershop has been closed for the whole of lockdown.
Everyone's struggling and stressing, and when you don't get clear vision from the government about what would happen, we'll get more stressed and more frustrated for tomorrow.
I know it's hard, and I'm not being critical, but the sooner we get consistency and the sooner we get certainty, the better.
Lifeline's seen an increase of calls from New South Wales. The local MP says the weekend's confusion caused a lot of distress.
This is a community under great stress. Fairfield is under great pressure.
Queues outside Centrelink here in Fairfield give some indication of the challenges being faced in this community. On top of that, the Service New South Wales website crashed today, with many unable to access special COVID grants.
We actually tried several times today, but every time we tried, the website crashed.
At the moment, it's a bit of a dead end.
A worrying thought about something that's supposed to be an essential lifeline. Kathleen Calderwood, ABC News, Sydney.
The state's first regional mass vaccination hub has opened near Newcastle. The first day, though, hasn't quite gone to plan. There have been booking issues at the facility, which is set up inside a former Bunnings warehouse. The opening coincides with a testing blitz that's underway in some regional towns following fears a positive COVID case passed through.
The quick sting came with a sense of relief.
Luckily, someone cancelled, so they said I could get in, which was perfect, so I was so happy about that.
It took 6 weeks to turn the former Bunnings warehouse into the state's second largest mass vaccination hub.
We'll be building up over the next few days and hopefully get to that 20,000 capacity pretty soon.
Nurse Bronwyn McKinlay usually works in paediatrics, but is among 300 staff lending time to the rollout.
Everyone's been really happy to be here. They're excited to have their vaccines.
But it hasn't gone as smoothly as hoped.
The online system, like any system, has had a couple of glitches, you can say.
Those online booking issues have now been largely ironed out. Further north, communities are facing problems of their own. A COVID case visited venues on the mid-north coast last week. Residents are taking no chances.
It does spread pretty quick, but yeah, as long as everyone does the right thing, I think it should be fine.
But it has sparked some frustration.
Got to take time off work and come here and go home and just sit around and do nothing. Can't go to the shops, can't do anything.
Long queues for COVID-19 testing is something Coffs Harbour hasn't experienced since the beginning of the pandemic. It's led to amplified calls for those from Greater Sydney to stay away.
Well, it's not ideal for people who have to go to work or might have other commitments with children and the like to be standing out there for hours and hours.
A town hoping the Delta variant hasn't made its way into their community. Claudia Jambor, ABC News, Coffs Harbour.